The Aqua10 Ultra Roller is Dreame's first robot vacuum with a roller-style mop, and it's been highly anticipated. But in my testing, I found some things that were just a little bit perplexing. So, is the Aqua10 the best robot that money can buy? And just to be clear, Dreame didn't send me any money. And you are gonna see a lot of paid videos on the Aqua10, but this isn't one of them. They sent this to me a couple days ago, so let's get started with the most talked about thing, the Ultra Roller. Now, in my experience, traditional spinning mop pads can just spread the dirt around and not really get the floor quite as clean as I would like. Dreame finally has a roller mop with two features that no other manufacturers are using right now. Now, the first unique thing is this fluffing roller right over here that is placed behind the main roller and it's spinning in the opposite direction. They say at 1000 RPM. So during cleaning, it fluffs up the roller so the bristles are extended and they don't get flattened out. And this is supposed to improve cleaning as it's touching the floor. And there's 10 nozzles along the back of this that continually wet the roller mop with fresh water as it's mopping. Also, this is able to push down against the floor with a force of 9 to 11 newtons, courtesy of these wheels. And as it's mopping, there's a scraper on the back that continually scrapes the dirt and dirty water off the roller and puts it into the dirty water tank. Now, the second unique thing about the Aqua Roller is that it has a little cover that goes over the roller. Okay, you can see the cover has come over the roller and it's gonna protect the carpet. When I put this back down, it's gonna keep the carpet dry. And also when it's on carpet, it can lift the chassis up to 14 millimeters. Now, all this sounds really good, but how does it work in practice? I spilled some coffee, very cinematically, of course, and then dried it. This coffee stain is now dried, it's hard, it's not even sticky. This test is very difficult for anything but the most high-end flagship robots, typically. So first I sent the Aqua10 out in AI mopping mode. They call it Clean Genius, and it's supposed to be able to look at your floor and determine what it needs to do to make it clean. And after several passes, it did not identify the coffee stain and it didn't do any extra cleaning. And to be fair, there's only maybe 2 robots that can actually do that successfully right now, even though a lot say they can. So next I decided to send it out in normal mode, in zone cleaning mode. And this time it did identify the stain. And it did a bunch of extra passes and it did pretty good, but it didn't quite finish the job. Well, the paper towel around the stain is actually quite clean. So there you have it. So do I think this is a hardware issue? Probably not. I think this is a software issue. And so keep in mind, this is a brand new release. It's on its first version of the firmware. And in my experience, manufacturers always update their robots and they can get better over time. So I'm thinking and hoping that's what's gonna happen with the Aqua10. Next, we got some very wet soy sauce. I've put it in Clean Genius mode, which is the AI cleaning that's gonna decide for itself what's the best way to clean this spill. Now in our wet test, totally different story. It did extremely well. It cleaned up all the soy sauce very effectively. In fact, it identified the soy sauce, went out, cleaned it up, then went back to the base station and then went out again to finish the cleaning. Totally successful, like you would expect with a roller mop. Did it spot the mess that I just left on the floor? That's some green salsa verde. Okay, it says it thinks it's uncleanable because it thinks it might be some pet waste or vomit or something, so that's fair. Now before we go any further, I think we need to evaluate its performance on hardwood. So I'm gonna sprinkle 20 grams of sand all over this beautiful hardwood. Sand is one of the more difficult things to pick up because it has some weight to it. So you really need a good brush roll design. And of course you need good programming to make sure that the vacuum gets everywhere that it should and does a couple passes. Hardwood pickup was 100%, which is exactly what you would expect for a flagship robot. And after doing that test, we sent the robot back to the dock and we let it auto empty. Then we checked how much sand was left in the dust bin, and we found there was 2.68 grams left, or about 13%. It is very effective at picking up large particles, and in fact, it can see them in the app and it adjusts its cleaning strategy so that it doesn't kick them around. Now, when it's cleaning your floor, you're gonna be going over with these two dual rollers. They have these on the X50 and the Mova V50, and they're very effective at anti-tangle because They're only attached at one end and they rotate like this. And so as they're rotating, they push the hair into here. And of course, this also has the extending side brush, which is really good at getting onto baseboards and into corners. We measured its anti-tangle ability with both long hair, about 9 inches, and also with pet hair. And we found this brush roll design to be excellent, and you're not going to see many tangles at all, at least in our experience. We performed our edge sweeping test twice. The first time we did it in the kitchen underneath the cabinets, and you can see the bottom of the doors are just a little above the robot. And I think this gave it a little bit of some distance issues because it didn't want to sweep right up to the edge of the baseboard. So the second time we tried it in the living room with 20 grains of scattered rice, and it had no trouble getting right up to the baseboard the second time. It did kick some of the grains of rice out into the middle of the room, but it picked them up on a subsequent pass. I've got 8 grains of rice in the corner. Let's see how it does with the extending side brush. It successfully picked up all of the grains of rice in one pass. We did our edge mopping test twice. First in the kitchen, where you can see it was underneath the cabinets, and it had a little trouble getting right up to the baseboard. So I decided to try it again, this time in the living room without the cabinets above it. And the second time, it had no problem getting right up to the baseboard really, really close. My guess is that it was detecting the height of the cabinet. I think there was some type of programming that was stopping it from getting really close. In our corner mopping test, you can see the extending roller got in pretty close, but didn't quite get into the corner, but no vacuum yet has. Now in a premium robot, you're paying for the best obstacle avoidance and navigation that you can get. And Dreame has upgraded their AstroVision system. So it uses twin AI cameras that can sense depth and an LED fill light. It also has a side-mounted 3D structured light sensor, and they say it can recognize up to 240 different types of objects. And it has a spinning LiDAR system that is on the top of the robot in this turret. It can go down into the robot to get underneath furniture, like my stove. And this is all powered by NVIDIA chips. So this is an update to the system that they've been using in the X50, and I found it to be pretty darn good. So let's see how it does in our obstacle avoidance test. We've got a shoe with the shoelaces untied. We've got a sock. We got some fake pet poop, and we have a power cord against the wall. The obstacle avoidance performance is about the best we've ever tested. Dreame has gotten really, really good at this. Now, what's even more difficult is avoiding a charging cable. A lot of robots have trouble with this, but not the Aqua10. Good job. All right, it just crossed a power cord. I didn't even catch that, but that's pretty cool. Also, it's able to climb thresholds of up to 1.56 inches in a double layer. This is just a little bit less in a single layer. It's probably the highest of any robot on the market right now. That's so impressive. Now, it is very good at navigating through complex environments like my table with these wire leg chairs. It has no trouble at all, and it can get quite close up to them, even with the roller brush and the extending side brush. So no matter what setting I have tried, actually it will not go underneath the stove, even though the X50, which is the same body or very close, did go under the stove. So it actually did have enough space, but didn't want to go there. One of the most important things you can have a robot vacuum do is vacuum your carpets. So we like to test every one of our vacuums in exactly the same way, but that doesn't mean we can't have a little fun sprinkling 20 grams of sand on the carpet. Because pickup is so important, we do it twice. But the second time we do it, we grind it in with our specially calibrated grinding in dance. Aqua10 has a claimed 30,000 pascals of suction, which is the highest I've ever heard for any robot, so my expectations are pretty high. When we sprinkled the sand on the carpet, the Aqua10 picked up 70%. And when we ground it in, it picked up 65%. Now those numbers are not bad, but they're kind of mid-pack for a flagship robot vacuum. The base station has a brand new look and feel for Dreame. It is very squared off and it is a little bit bigger than before. Now it has one interesting feature that they're introducing for the first time here. But before we get to that, let's go over the basics. We have our clean water tank. We got our dirty water tank. It does have a bag, and I can feel right now it is running hot air through the bag to make sure that there's no odors that develop. That's actually pretty cool. It has automatic detergent dispensing, and there are two different options. A is just for your regular cleaning, and B is a special pet detergent that you can use to eliminate pet odors. And the unique feature here is that it has hot water mop washing up to 100 degrees Celsius. That's 212 degrees Fahrenheit. That is boiling water. And they say this should be good for getting things like grease off the roller. Now, before the robot exits and goes into the room, it's gonna cool that down so there's no chance of you getting burned. In terms of maintenance, the base plate is really quite easy to deal with. There's not a lot for you to clean. You just pop this out. This is gonna have some hair in it, and that's really all that you need to do. The rest is pretty much self-cleaning. Every time Dreame updates their app, it keeps getting better and better. And at this point, I would say it is as good as Roborock, which is probably the best. It supports a multiple floor mapping. It's very easy to divide up a floor into multiple rooms, or you can have it do it automatically. It's got a whole host of different cleaning strategies, including vacuum, vacuum and mop, and so forth, and different power level and suction levels. And if you want, you can use Clean Genius, which basically identifies the dirt for you and figures out the best strategy to clean it up. It also has a camera on board. And if you like to deep dive, there is a whole plethora of different floor cleaning settings and mop cleaning settings. Dreame has really upped their game with the app. It is a very quiet robot. We measured 60 decibels in normal cleaning. When it's at the base station and emptying the dust, it's at 77 decibels. And when it's cleaning the mop, we saw a maximum of 68 decibels. Now, because Dreame is a popular brand and this is their first roller style vacuum, that means there is a ton of anticipation for this product. But I'm not getting paid, and that means I'm gonna be honest. And I'll tell you, I think the Aqua10 has a ton of potential. It performed extremely well in most of our tests. Obstacle avoidance is about as good as it gets, and in my home over the last week, it didn't get stuck on anything, and that is saying something. On hardwood, pickup is amazing, even with larger dirt, and day-to-day mopping is really, really good too. However, I've got an early production model, and I think the firmware needs an update in order for it to be competitive with other flagship robots, like the Mova V50. Now, Mova is a partner company of Dreame, and the V50 actually has a lot of the same technology that the Aqua10 does. The Mova had better pickup performance on carpet. Now, hardwood is about the same, but in terms of mopping performance, the V50 was actually about the same as the Aqua Roller, and it just has spinning style mop pads. So I know it's definitely gonna get there. Now, links are down below, but let's check out our current leaderboard. We're moving away from a numbered scoring system to a weighted average to better reflect the importance of different tests and features. So right now, the Aqua Roller is tied for 3rd place. Now, it's a great all-round robot, and Dreame as a company is making incredible strides on coming out with a lot of products, and they are really pushing the envelope, in my opinion. I'm doing daily videos on my new Instagram and TikTok. You can follow me at Vacuum Nerds, and check out this video right here for more robot vacuum reviews.